Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Friday, September 21st. I'm Robert Blaszkiewicz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Joined with me, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, running down the latest developments. And obviously, nationally, everyone's looking at the presidential race, and the big developments this week were kind of this furor over this secret videotape that kind of came out from, I think back in May it was actually recorded, of Mitt Romney speaking at a fundraiser about the 47% of people who are on some kind of government assistance or getting government benefits who don't pay income tax, and how basically he's not going to get their vote. He needs to go after the others. So.
And the various fact check organizations say he's wrong, that he is going to get their vote.
Right. Well, a lot of them are senior citizens who are going to vote. There's a good portion of senior citizens that are vote Republican, and
right.
And so it was kind of an he was a victim of his own oversimplification, I think, of the whole tax structure.
And that brings into question, how where else is he just flat out wrong?
Right.
And what does that mean for its platform?
Yeah. Well, and I think the larger question that I think we want to tackle here is, people have talked endlessly about what this means, but obviously I think recent polling has shown support trending toward Obama, and unless Romney can kind of change the trajectory of the campaign, it looks like an Obama win is kind of heading toward that in November. Right. And I think the bigger question for us is if you kind of see the snowball effect, where Republican voters kind of get dispirited and give up on the Romney campaign, will it have an effect down ticket, particularly on races like the Senate race in Indiana, which are razor thin right now?
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, Donnelly, last I heard, was ahead. We'll have some better poll numbers by this time next week. Some very good poll numbers. So, stay tuned for that, basically. Right. But, it's looking to me like Indiana is what, 6 points apart in the presidential race. So that's putting more. Obama is opening an office in Gary, for instance, whereas before he only had the office in Indianapolis.
Yeah, the Democrats are kind of written off Indiana, but maybe not so quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think you're going to see that Senate race is seeming to trend toward Joe Donnelly, the Democrat, versus Richard Murdoch, the Republican, I think. So I think you're going to see more attention put into Indiana because of that.
Right. What about the other big statewide race, the governor's race, which there hasn't been as much talk about because Pence has kind of been seen as having a pretty safe lead for the moment, at least.
Right, for the moment. I still see that as going Pence. I think.
And Pence is the Republican congressman, very conservative.
Right.
Running against John Gregg, the former House Speaker, Democrat, Southern Indiana, who's trying to paint himself as more moderate, and so.
And what could be happening in that race, and again, I won't see the polling data until next week. But what I'm wondering is, there's been a lot more emphasis on Pence's social agenda, and so I'm wondering how that's going to affect this. Mitch Daniels has been a wildly popular governor. Either to love him or hate him, but more to love him because he was so fiscally focused.
His focus was,
and that seems not to be the case.
Yeah, he took some criticism for saying that Republicans should kind of back off on the social issues and focus on the economy and jobs, and you would think that's pretty good sane advice, I would say.
Right, and now the hard part for Republicans is to say, we want to focus on jobs, but and so forth, but recognize that the Republican philosophy is also, and a sound one in this case, is that government should be enabling the creation of jobs rather than creating government jobs. Government's been shedding like crazy. So,
right.
So we'll see which direction that goes.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's and kind of the whole debate's kind of crystallizing around this Romney 47%. The Romney campaign in turn put out I think an old tape of Barack Obama, who was then I think a state senator in Illinois, talking about that he believes in redistribution. So it's obvious that they're going to try to kind of pivot from this and try to say, that Obama would rather, take someone's wealth and give it to other people.
Right. And, that's what government does.
Exactly.
I mean,
Social Security is redistribution, public education is redistribution. It's all,
yeah, I mean, national
it's,
security is redistribution.
If you're gonna, yeah, the military, obviously. So yeah, it's kind of a tough argument, I think, to make. Switching over to local transportation, news broke today that Amtrak is going to basically eliminate some service between Chicago and Indianapolis. Possibly.
Well, and Amtrak does this periodically because Amtrak doesn't really have a really good funding, foot basically to stand on. It's just a temporary basis.
The service is subsidized, and they, concentrate on routes that have more passenger, more traffic, and routes like Chicago to Indianapolis that's a little lighter, is on the chopping block possibly. But it also speaks to, that there's also, at the same time, a push going on for high-speed rail, the Chicago to Detroit route, which, looks like there may be some big investment headed to Northwest Indiana, possibly to get that route going.
Right, and that's the big investment being the Porter Junction, and it brings back the Schoolhouse Rock.
The old
Porter Junction. What's your function?
That's the old bottleneck of those tracks that go between Porter and Chesterton. Anyone who lives out there knows.
Yeah, and you're
that.
Basically crossing over, and so that's they're putting the money into that. They finally got the agreements, so that will boost the high-speed rail effort. The question is, if you build it, can you sustain it? And if we're seeing the way Amtrak is treated now with the low, relatively low-speed passenger routes, how is that going to bode for the high-speed rail?
Right.
Because nobody should expect that it's going to be totally covered by passenger fares.
No, and it never really has been. So
yeah, I mean, no form of transportation. So.
Exactly. But there are gains to in terms of bigger economic gains. Saving car traffic. Keeping cars off the road, things like that.
I mean, in this case for the high-speed rail, the pitch here is an interesting one, that you could bring more meetings to Northwest Indiana, to Chicago area, and so forth. Business meetings of people that I don't want to worry about the TSA and all of that. Let me just hop on a train, get there fast, get home fast, and do that. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, in Lake County, the commissioners and the council members are kind of wrestling with this budget issue that they have. And at the crux of it seems to be trying to figure out any way they can avoid a county income tax, because there's such a shortfall that there's either going to be just horrible, painful cuts to the county budget, or they're going to have to find new revenue, and new revenue would be.
Well, presumably be an income tax.
Lake County being the only only county in the state of Indiana that does not have an income tax.
I mean, they could have other taxes be crushing burdens that are user fees, but they would be the same effect of creating additional revenue. The thing is, they've got they're the only county that doesn't have the income tax, so they're the only county that has their tax levy, the property tax levy, which is the amount that you can collect, frozen until they do pass an income tax. And so there's a lot of pressure on the county to basically use the tools that are available before you expect state assistance.
Right, and there doesn't seem to be really the political will to deal with it.
I mean, whoever,
I mean, no one wants to be the commissioner or the councilperson to say, yes, I brought us an income tax. I brought
and
Lake
don't
County
you love me
residents
for
an
it?
income
Yeah,
tax.
exactly.
No one wants to be that person.
They're going to get voted out of office if they do it.
Yeah.
But they need to be able to say, I did it for the right thing. Yeah. Porter County, the only reason that an income tax was created there was because the Bethlehem Steel bankruptcy pretty well forced the county into doing that. What happened in Porter County was Of course, the steel mill went bankrupt and then didn't pay the taxes on the fall installment. And that was, probably 25% or so of the tax base in the county. That was huge.
Yeah.
So the state bailout was to say, if you create an income tax, then we'll offer you these loans, but at zero interest. And so, that was the incentive there.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's going to have to be a similar state incentive because the frozen tax levy doesn't seem to be helping.
Right, right.
The idea that if they borrow money, well, then that's just pushing the problem down the road and making it worse.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll see.
And meanwhile, you have serious needs like they cut out the funding for the 911 consolidation for the next fiscal year.
Yeah, the sheriff's
Public
department
transportation
needs money for the jail to bring it up to snuff with the Justice Department so that we're not facing lawsuits and
they're in a tough spot. They're just going to have to bite the bullet finally and do it.
There are no easy answers.
Suffer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with another political roundtable.